Okay, calm down. You got rivers, man. You got rivers, man. Okay, calm down.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. We are so excited to be here with you in Zohran Mamdani's New York City. Zohran Mamdani's America. It's all of our New York City and all of our America, but we're definitely excited to have him be part of it on a mayoral level. And of course, everyone knows he won the election, and that's very exciting. And we've been covering this on this show, his campaign. We interviewed him in 2023 about the Gaza hunger strike that he was engaging in. We talked to him about his activism around taxi drivers. And so we are really excited that he won the election. He got that famous Katie Halper Show bump. I think we can all agree that was the make or break moment, was when he went on the show in 2023. And we are so excited to have a recap show where we talk about this, about how it happened, what's going to happen next. And we're going to introduce those guests shortly. But before we start, please do remember to subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And to do that, you hit the subscribe and then the bell. Also, like the stream. It's a free way to support the show. And we're almost at 400,000 subscriptions, by the way, subscribers. So that's really exciting. If you can, please become Patreon supporters at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And during the second half of the show, we're going to be speaking to someone who's been on the show before. He's always a fascinating and very insightful guest to talk to, and that's Milton Perez from Vocal, New York's homelessness union. He's going to talk to us about their role in Zohran's victory and also what Zohran can do and needs to do for the homeless community in New York. But before we talk to Milton, we're going to speak to two guests who are going to talk about their roles in the Zohran Mamdani campaign and in his victory. And I'm really, really excited to be bringing onto the stage Sumaya Awad, who is a Palestinian New Yorker, writer and organizer, and member of NYPD. She's co-editor of the book Palestine, A Socialist Introduction. And we're bringing on Beth Miller, who is the political director of Jewish Voice for Peace Action, where she spearheads the organization's congressional advocacy and electoral organizing. Beth has worked in the movement for Palestinian rights since 2011. Welcome, Sumaya and Beth.
It's great
Thanks
to
so
be
much
here.
for having us on.
Yes, really excited about this. You guys must be really excited. Tell us about each of your roles in this campaign, what you did to help make it happen, what your different organizations did, and what inspired you to get involved.
Who starts, Sumaya?
Go ahead, Beth.
Yeah, well, so excited to be on with you, Katie. So like you said, when introducing me, I'm the political director with Jewish Voice for Peace Action, and JVP Action, I'm very proud to say, endorsed Zohran Mamdani on the day he launched his campaign in October of 2024. We endorsed him because JVPA has known and been working with Zohran for many, many years during his time as a state legislator. And we saw firsthand that he was a politician and a leader who showed moral consistency, meaning that he cared not only about our communities here in New York, but about communities around the world, and refused to exclude Palestinians from that, like so many elected officials try to do. So JVP Action mobilized thousands and thousands of volunteers as part of Zohran's historic volunteer turnout campaign. And we launched canvases across 4 boroughs that knocked about 200,000 doors during the primary and the general. And we also co-led a coalition called Jews for Zohran, along with Jews for Racial and Economic Justice. So together, JVPA and JFREJ made up Jews for Zohran to show that, in fact, there were tens of thousands of Jewish New Yorkers who were thrilled, excited, and are now celebrating Mayor Mamdani.
Yeah. And so you did 4 of the boroughs. I guess you didn't even try with Staten Island, right?
You know what? It was actually the Bronx. We were in Staten Island.
Why didn't you do the Bronx?
It was just where we had our leads ready to go.
Oh, okay. That's funny. Yeah. I was like, wow, you really gave up on Staten Island. Understandable. But okay. Yeah. And what about you, Sumaya?
Yeah, so, Zohran is a member of New York City DSA, not just a member, a leader in the chapter in so many ways. And previous to his run for mayor, he was a state assembly member in Astoria and ran for office through DSA as a democratic socialist. And a big part of this campaign was DSA and New York City DSA specifically. There's like so much to talk about, but the thing that I think I want to emphasize was the massive field operation that DSA organized and structured, and that brought in so many other organizations, including JVPA, JFRED, COV, DRUM, etc., that was able to spread out across the entire city really early on, like before it was popular, back when he was polling at 1%, which was not even a year ago. We're talking like January 2025. And then it just kept growing and growing, and there are canvases every single week. And soon they became almost every single day. And I think this field operation and Tasha, who sort of led this and spoke at the victory rally after the results were announced, is in many ways the mastermind behind all of this. I mean, 104,000 volunteers. And after the primary win, shortly after, DSA New York City reached 10,000 members. So it also just really ballooned. I'm actually not sure what the numbers are right now after the Tuesday victory, but I think that was a really, really important part of this, and part of just popularizing socialist politics, and connecting it through coalition with all these other groups that are doing organizing across the boroughs. Well, the other thing I'll say, sorry.
No, keep going.
Is another big thing, and part of what I was a part of, and Beth as well, with Zohran, and it was previous to his running for mayor, but sort of continued with that, was organizing around Palestine in the city and connecting Palestine to local politics. And there's many examples of that that hopefully we'll talk about later, but the one I want to mention right now is the Not on Our Dime campaign, which Zohran entered as an assembly member, and with New York City DSA in coalition with other groups working specifically around Palestinian rights. And it was like a precursor to what we later saw him do in the campaign, which is connect Palestine, US complicity, to why it matters to New Yorkers, to why this is not just a foreign policy issue, but this is a New York issue, and that our own tax dollars should not be subsidizing the funding of illegal settlements built on Palestinian land, and instead should be helping us fund infrastructure in our city and schools and healthcare, et cetera.
Yeah, can you guys talk more about that Not Another Dime campaign? Because I think it is exactly what you just said, Sumaya, a perfect example of how this issue is a local issue as well as a foreign policy one. Which whoever wants to jump in.
Sure, I can start. So Not on Our Dime began many years ago. The idea of it came about many years ago, with just trying to think about how to hold accountable organizations that operate from New York City, that are raising hundreds of thousands of dollars annually, millions actually, to help fund the building of illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank. And these organizations were masquerading as charities. So your donations are tax exempt, and sending this money overseas. And we wanted to put a stop to that, and we wanted to highlight the contradictions of that and the hypocrisy and the fact that these are, this is violations of international law. They're violations of New York human rights law. And at the time, we began working with Zohran and thinking through what is legislation that can be passed on the state level, to hold these organizations accountable, to strip them of their status as charity organizations. And with his team, the idea came up of the Not on Our Dime Act, of, our money should not be going, not even a single dime should be going to fund war crimes and violations of international law. And it was a really incredible coalition of organizations, Jewish organizations, Palestinian organizations, legal organizations, who came together and introduced, through Zohran, introduced this legislation. And of course, it was introduced by the DSA candidate, Zohran, in assembly, but then also signed on by other members of the state assembly, and then in the state senate by Jabari Prisport, a DSA elected in the state senate.
Another former guest.
Another former, great. Jabari is amazing. And that was it was launched in 2023. It feels like so long ago now.
It's so long ago.
Right? And I'll say one more thing, and then I'll pass it to Beth, because there's a lot more to say. So it launched in 2023 with a big Albany Day, lobbying day. And then a year later, the genocide had begun. And at that time, we chose to expand it. So originally, it was just focused on the occupied West Bank. And in 2024, we expanded it to include Gaza because many of these same organizations were fundraising to send uniforms to the IDF and other things. And so we expanded it to include Gaza. And I think that was a really important part of the organizing and sort of really emblematic of Zohran's politics of consistency, right? And that moral clarity around Palestinian rights is part of what we care about as New Yorkers. It's not an aside. It's not a stepping out of my way to talk about it, that it's actually really ingrained in how we talk about anything, if we're really here to build working class power for every New Yorker with no exceptions.
Right. Yeah. I was actually going to ask you, Sumaya, about an interesting comment that Eric Adams made, because you're talking about the role of, Palestine as an issue, as a local issue. And there's been a lot of weaponization, I would say, in this race of identity politics, in a way where people like to claim to speak for an entire community, whether that's, as we've seen a lot with the ADL, the Jewish New Yorkers, and in some cases, like this case with Eric Adams, he felt free, took the liberty of speaking for Muslims. So let's play this clip of Eric Adams engaging in some interesting political science analysis.
I'm sorry, Katie. Can you tell me? I have an Eric Adams still image.
It is sorry, one second, everyone. It is Eric Adams on Muslims and I just gave it away. You're right. It's just an image. And then it's just a quote. So show that and then show the quote. Sorry about that. I thought that guy wasn't
okay.
Here. I can also just say it, Brett, if you want, because I want to show that, and then also Sumaya had an interesting response to that. But okay, here we go. So this is Ross Barkan, who's covered Zohran Mamdani, who also, by the way, we interviewed him today on Useful Idiots, the other show that I host. I co-host with Aaron Mate. Ross Barkan ran for state senate, and his campaign manager was Zohran Mamdani, which I had forgotten about. And of course, I guess he's a self-loathing Jew, so he hired an anti-Semite to manage his campaign. So Ross Barkan was covering this. This is from October 30th, and he's, Eric Adams is speaking somewhere and says, "I have not seen one Muslim who supports the philosophy of the DSA." Eric Adams says of Zohran Mamdani, "He is representing the gentrifiers. His policies benefit them." So, Sumaya, you tweeted in response to this that you were both Muslim here and proud member of NYC DSA. What is your response? Can you elaborate on this response in case Eric is watching? And we know he has free time now. So,
to quote Zohran, if Eric Adams is watching, turn up the volume.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's that quote really shows how out of touch Eric Adams is with the electorate and who is voting for Zohran and where a lot of his numbers are coming from, because the reality is the majority of Muslims in this city have come out in support of Zohran. The Yemeni Association, the Bodega Association, countless mosques and Muslim organizations in the city, and they're not all doing it because they think he's not a socialist or not affiliated with New York City DSA, because he's very vocal about that. Right. They're doing it because the politics of New York City DSA, the politics of the socialism that we are a part of, is that working class people should have basic rights, is that they should be able to have power over their livelihoods. And that's where rent freeze comes from. I mean, in the quote, Adam says the gentrifiers are the ones backing him. I mean, sure, there's some gentrifiers, but the reality is it's everybody that is a tenant in New York that is struggling to pay rent, that knows what it's like to try to search for an apartment near your work or near your child's school, and that struggles day to day, or that has to move out of the city or move out of the borough they're in or where their family lives, etc., because they can't afford it. And so I think the politics of DSA is really simple. It's that people should be able to pay their rent without, surviving day to day, that they should be able to thrive and pay their rent, that their children should be able to go to good schools, and their children should have good childcare until age 5 so that the parents can work. and that transportation should be good. It should work. It should be fast so that we can be able to live our lives. Such basic things that that's at the heart of this. And the reality is that anyone who sees this and reads this is like, oh yeah, I should have those things. And I think that's exactly why Zohran won. I think that's exactly why people voted for him, because they're like, these are basic things. How is anybody framing these as scary? How is anyone saying New York's going to get worse when what he's calling for is to make people's lives better?
Yeah. Well, I actually wanted to not make you guys have a big head, but Brad, let's take a look quickly. We definitely are going to show some very important videos, but let's show A9 and then A10. So the Canary Mission, which is a great organization that likes to dox people. I feel a little inadequate because they haven't made an entry on me yet. They've made videos about me from the show, but I'm not worthy of a whole thing. I am on.
That is shocking.
I know. I have a real inferiority complex now. I am on Betar's list of people who they don't think will go to Israel. But so is, by the way, like Tony Judd and Adrian Rich, which is kind of interesting because they both died. But I guess they're right on those. But the Canary Mission actually put together some graphics that trace, who's behind Zohran. So let's take a look at this one first. All right. So this one, Mamdani's campaign field organizers. Groups behind Mamdani organizing machine include NYC, DSA, JFREJ, that's Jews for Racial and Economic Justice, CAV Voice. What is CAV again? I forgot what it.
Communities.
Gosh. Yeah, it's a community.
Hold on.
Okay.
Wow.
I'll keep reading it, and then Jewish Voice for Peace, Drum Beats, and the New York Working Families Party, and then you see a Zohran image. I feel so bad for his haters because it's so hard to find an unflattering picture of him. Not to like objectify him, he just always looks he's very photogenic. So they have all the evil, allegedly evil organizations. And Beth, you responded by correcting them about the official title. It's JVP, Jewish Voice for Peace Action. And you're not the only one who got to be featured on an infographic by the Great Canary Mission. Let's take a look at this other one. Now, this one would really make me have a big head. Brad, can we zoom in anymore? Okay, here we go. So Students for Justice in Palestine, UNRWA, Adult Justice Project, NYC, DSA Anti-War, CCR, they're great. US CPR, If Not Now, JFRED, JVPNY, Mahmoud Khalil, Julia Salazar, Jabari Brisbane, and at the top of it all, Sumaya Awad. So I hope you print that out. Yeah.
Just a beaming Sumaya Awad.
I know. It's very flattering photo, very flattering image. But, it is fascinating how these people don't have anything to get Zohran on, and they don't have anything to indict him with. And, we see again and again this really dangerous conflation between anti-Zionism or criticism of Israel and anti-Semitism. And, it's there. The good news is that in this race, at least, it really didn't work. It didn't work. And I'm sure people are very upset. In fact, we know people are upset because we've seen them have kind of meltdowns. And we're going to, of course, get eventually to Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL. But I actually want to show something that happened before Zohran's election. And it was really infuriating. This is a clip of I'm sure she identifies as a liberal Zionist. This is, let's see, her name, she's a rabbi at the Central Synagogue, which is in Manhattan. Her name is Rabbi Angela Buchdahl. And here she is basically going after Zohran, saying that he's an anti-Semite. And she uses a really interesting example that I'm going to ask you guys about. So let's play this clip.
We arrive this week at Parshat Lech Lecha, the beginning of the Jewish story. God calls Abraham and Sarah to leave their home and comfort for a place they do not know, promising, "You shall be a blessing." But before we think of the grandeur of that destiny, imagine the uncertainty, the feeling of being strangers in unknown territory. Many of you have shared that this is how you feel right now, that this is an existential moment for our Jewish community. Some fear that in the most Jewish city in the world, we are becoming strangers once again. I share many of those fears. I fear living in a city and a nation where anti-Zionist rhetoric is normalized and contagious, where Israel is singularly and repeatedly called out and demonized as the worst actor on the world stage, where our children feel ashamed to call themselves Zionists, or afraid to wear Jewish symbols, or worry they can only belong if they are the good kind of Jew. I'm terrified by how anti-Zionist rhetoric and anti-Semitic tropes have led to some deadly violence against Jews. Mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani has contributed to a mainstreaming of some of the most abhorrent anti-Semitism. His shocking 2023 accusation, when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF. This crosses the line clearly into anti-Semitism, not only demonizing Israelis, but echoing the age-old anti-Semitic trope that Jews across the world are the root cause of our problem here. His false claims of genocide, his reluctance to label Hamas a terrorist organization.
Okay, let's just stop it there. I mean, I'm still so stunned by the claim that it is anti-Semitic to call what has been diagnosed as a genocide. Like, even if for argument's sake, let's say, I mean, it's indisputable, but let's say you're whatever on the fence about it. The leap between saying it's not actually genocide and it's anti-Semitic to call it genocide is just it's impossible to make. But that is a ridiculous trope. And I'll have more to say about why I think people like this rabbi are actually creating anti-Semitism. But can one of you explain the reference to when the NYPD has its boot on your neck? It's been laced by the IDF.
Yeah, I'm happy to kick off on this. I mean, I'll just start by saying that I agree. I find it incredibly difficult to listen to that, I will say, as a Jewish New Yorker myself. It's quite upsetting to hear a rabbi in shul speaking in a way that feels so deeply at odds with my own Jewish values and what I believe it means to be Jewish. So I feel very upset and saddened by that. Just to kind of start with the question that you asked, though, Katie, and then I feel there's a lot of other things that that she mentioned that I think are worth diving into here. But that reference specifically is a reference to the fact that the NYPD train with the IDF and vice versa, for that matter, to be clear. Right. There are actually no claims being made by the Palestinian rights movement that Israel is at the core or the root of police brutality in the US. No one is saying that. That's not what Zohran is saying. That's not what organizers have been saying. JVP worked for many years, along with many others in the Palestine movement, on a campaign called End the Deadly Exchange, which is entirely geared towards stopping specifically the ADL sponsorship of sending police officers to Israel to train with the IDF. And the reason we called it the Deadly Exchange is that there was an exchange of worst practices. The US doesn't need help knowing how to brutalize Black and brown communities. And Israel doesn't need help either, but they both have tactics that they can swap with one another. And that is what has been going on. And that is what Zohran Mamdani was referencing. And it is incredibly bad faith to suggest otherwise. And it's rooted in this unwillingness, a complete unwillingness to take a step back, take a breath, and look at what is actually happening in Palestine right now. That response, I believe, comes from a very kind of walls up place where you are unwilling to actually listen and see reality. Like you said, I mean, the fact that that was followed by this idea that it is somehow anti-Semitic to say that Israel is carrying out a genocide, when Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, every single Palestinian human rights organization, Israeli human rights organization, this is basically the entire international human rights community versus a few people in the US and the US government saying that it is a genocide. We have seen intentional starvation and slaughter. And it may be, and it is true that many in the Jewish community are unwilling to see that, but that is anti-Palestinian racism. It is dehumanization of Palestinians and an unwillingness to see their humanity. And it's an unwillingness to see and understand that a nation state that claims to be acting on behalf of all Jews everywhere, which it is not, but Netanyahu, every time he opens his mouth, he says, I am doing this for the global, like all Jews everywhere, to keep you all safe. That's a lie. But it is our job to reject that and make it clear that that's a lie. And it is very upsetting to see today rabbis, especially with such, large congregations, saying otherwise when it's simply not true. And I think I would be remiss to not also kind of touch on this point that she made, where she says that Israel is being held to a double standard, that it is being treated the worst committer of atrocities. That is also simply not true. It's simply not an accurate description of what anyone is doing or saying, certainly not what Zohran is doing or saying.
Right.
As myself as a Jewish activist who's been doing this work for many, many years, the number of times that I've been yelled at or told that I am singling out Israel, I can't even begin to count. Yeah. The truth is, I am trying to de-exceptionalize Israel. Right. We are all trying to de-exceptionalize Israel. The US government has singled out Israel for special treatment. The US government sends Israel billions of dollars every year in unconditional military funding to an interest-bearing account in a way we do with no other country. We defend them on the international stage time and time again for atrocities that we would not necessarily defend in other situations. And it has become this third rail that you're not supposed to talk about. It has been singled out by the US government special treatment, and the movement in the US is trying to de-exceptionalize it. And we're trying to create consistency.
Right. I mean, the government and our media constantly talks about this special relationship between Israel and the US, right? That is what's exceptionalizing Israel. And Sumaya, did you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll add to that is on the same rhythm of singling out, is that Zohran, the entirety of his campaign, was singled out again and again and again around this particular issue as well. Yeah. Whether it was in the first or second debate before the primaries or the last two debates before the general election, he was always singled out with questions about his support for Palestinian rights and his refusal to throw any group under the bus. I mean, that's what's right. I think really infuriating and hypocritical about, what we just watched, what others have said, is that Zohran's entire message is, I refuse to build my platform and my campaign and my politics at the expense of any group, right, whether they're Palestinians or others. That's it. He's refusing the idea of supremacism of any kind. Yeah. And instead he's being attacked. And it really, I think, reflects on those that are still, touting those lies.
Right. Yeah, exactly. These Zionists are the ones who made his issue all about Palestine. I mean, he's always been great on Palestine, but Palestine for him is an important issue, and he has lots of other important issues that he was running on. It's the people who can't stand the idea of someone who is a Palestine supporter being in the government. They're the ones who made this a referendum on Zionism, really, and it was a great result. I mean, there was so much bigotry over the course of that, but the result was that they lost that referendum, which I'm hoping will have some effect. We'll see. But I also have to say, these people who claim to care about anti-Semitism, if they're just, cynical liars, some of them are, or they're really have actual some kind of they're brainwashed. It is just so rich to me that someone can stand up on the bima and say that Zohran is engaging in anti-Semitism when they're the ones who are conflating being Jewish with supporting a genocide. Like, that's not actually good if you care about Jewish safety, So yeah. It's kind of like, how dare you? First of all, you're wrong, you're inaccurate, you're smearing someone, but you yourself are doing the thing that you claim to care about when the entire world is watching a live stream genocide. How dare you pretend that it's anti-Semitic to call it a genocide?
Can I add something to that, Katie? I think another reason why some of the attacks, at least from some of the Cuomo camps, and, you know, Trump and others like him, the reason those attacks came in the form of, you know, Zohran's anti-Semitic is because they can't stand his working class politics. But they can't,
They can't say that out
attack
loud. Yeah.
Right. But they can't say, oh, we don't want you to, you know, rent freeze. We don't want you to this and that. And so instead they resorted to, well, let's attack him on Palestine, because the default in US politics, and certainly the default in New York politics, is that you can't speak about Palestine. It's taboo. You can speak about anything else, but not that. I think what they didn't realize, because they're so out of touch with their voter base, is that actually New Yorkers are seeing this genocide happen, and they're actually against the genocide, and they support Palestinian rights, and they see that there are hundreds of thousands of Jewish New Yorkers that also stand with Palestinians, and they understand that fighting for Palestinian rights is tied to fighting for their own rights, and all the polls have shown this. And so I think that was a big misstep on their end, and what we got was Zohran winning and really shattering the default of New York politics on this particular issue. I mean, on many issues, but certainly on this one, where the default has always been you stand by Israel at the expense of all Palestinian New Yorkers. And that's just no longer the case in New York.
Well, that actually, I'm going to show another clip, but I guess, you know, I'll give everyone a chance to grab their Dramamine, because it's going to be of Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL. But, you know, you bring up something really important, Sumaya, which is that it's not acceptable to say, I mean, it's politically unpopular, right, to say, I oppose rent freezes. So what do? They focus on the Palestine stuff, or they call them a socialist, right? You want free stuff. You want, you know, you're a communist. Or as someone on Newsmax literally said, this was hilarious. He said that Jews are, I'm paraphrasing, but he really said that Jews aren't realizing what a threat Zohran is because of the free stuff. This is a guy. Oh, yeah, it was amazing. We'll cut this clip in later, Brad. Remind us when we're making a clip of this. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, you really can't make it up. But Sumaya, given that you just made that link, and given that you co-edited a book about socialism in Palestine, what is that connection
between socialism and Palestine?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think at the heart of it, it's the argument is that when we're fighting for a world where workers have control over their labor, over how they're used, over their rights, and have all of these afforded to them, that doesn't just, that the separation between domestic and international begins to wither away. You know, there's that famous quote from AOC years ago where she said, international foreign policy is domestic policy. And I think that one of the many arguments the book makes is that when we're talking about domestic issues, whether it's healthcare, education, immigrant rights, we have to understand it within the framework of what the U.S. is doing abroad, because it feeds into what is happening locally. And with Palestine, there's such a direct link, right, with the billions of dollars that go to Israel from the U.S. that could be spent elsewhere, with the shared weapons, the military technology that's used in the U.S.-Mexico border, that's also used across hundreds of checkpoints in the occupied West Bank, et cetera. So that was a big part of the book. And the other thing that I'll say about it, and I'll stop, is that it was also making the argument that socialism and just like working class politics and working class power has always existed in the Arab world through various movements over a century. And it's not a new link that we're creating by talking about it today, that it's actually always existed, and that it's really, really important to remember that, and to honor that, and to learn from that. So we learn from our mistakes as we're trying to build for the future we want.
Yeah, and there's a lot of support for socialism in Palestine, or there has been historically.
There's been different iterations of it that have tried many different things. That should be its own episode, Katie.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
Because there's no way for me to talk about it.
I know. I mean, the question that I asked you about, is a big one, but I'm glad we at least dipped. You gave us a little intro of it. But yeah, we should do a whole show on that. By the way, we do have that clip that I mentioned about Jews and free stuff and Zohran. Brad, do you have it, or just give me a sense of how much time you need, because I'll dictate whether I go back to it. Okay, here we go.
And Katie, do we know where in this?
I think it's just 1 minute. How long is the clip?
It's a minute long. Do you want to just play the full thing?
Yeah. Thanks.
I guess now it's more so like, chickens for KFC with this whole Mamdani thing, or like cows for McDonald's here. Look, I mean, I don't know why any person who would be a Jewish person, who would be an American person, someone who lived through 9/11, which I did in New York City, being born and raised here, would be ready to vote for someone who has such ties to extremists. And there's nothing wrong with like actual American Muslims, especially you have like Nation of Islam, who are like Black American Muslims, people like that. But this guy, Mamdani, there's so many extreme people that he's been aligned with. And for this to have happened in New York City just 24 years ago, and like this is where we are, like we were the city of like Giuliani and even like Bloomberg, and it's like, what the heck has happened? I mean, we only have a few more weeks to go. I mean, go Sliwa, go Cuomo, go anybody that's not this guy promising all this free stuff, because that's what's putting his whole coalition together. The promise of free stuff makes Jews forget that, like, he's an extremist.
Yeah, okay.
The promise of free stuff makes Jews forget that he's an extremist. Yeah.
Wow. I just have one initial reaction I want to say. Which is I just want to note, first of all, there were so many levels of bigotry that were going on in that clip.
Yeah.
I know the rabbis who were in that clip. They are incredible people, incredible powerhouse rabbis.
And just sorry, Beth, let me just explain, because it starts. The clip starts midway where he's making this guy is making a joke. He's a Newsmax commentator. He's making a joke because there are rabbis, including a trans rabbi and women rabbis, who came out for Zohran. And so that was his joke. What chickens for KFC.
Chickens for KFC.
Yeah, that was the reference.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And, there was a wave of really horrific transphobia directed at the incredible Rabbi Abby Stein, who is in that, who is a friend and a wonderful person and part of the, movement for justice in the city, supported Zohran, has been part of the movement for Palestinian rights. And there was a really horrific wave of just vile transphobia directed at her, hatred toward the other women who were all together in that. And then, of course, the absurdly and very clearly anti-Semitic idea that Jews would be distracted by a shiny free thing. But I mean, the overall thing here is that I think that Zohran's opposition doesn't know what to do here, because what he has pulled together is a broad, diverse, and powerful coalition of New Yorkers. And what we are all doing is coming together to say we are going to stand in solidarity with one another to make all of our lives better together. And we don't need to live under a Cuomo, live under an Adams. We don't need to be in this city that we've been in before. And we can build something new. And the thing that I think is the best antidote to the Trump fascism that we're seeing right now is broad, diverse coalitions of people realizing that when we organize, we can gain power for ourselves and win. And that's why this campaign has sent so many people in our opposition spiraling out.
Right. Well, I did warn people that, that's just disgusting. And it's so great to see these people now freaking out because they lost, and their bigotry and their fear mongering and their Islamophobia and their anti-Palestine racism and occasional weird, like hot mic unintentional anti-Semitic trope dropping and their transphobia. None of it worked. I do want to show someone, Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL. Again, major trigger warning, because if you thought that rabbi was hard to watch, whoa, hold my Manischewitz. Let's take a look at this Greenblatt clip.
Young man, and if he's 34, I can call him a young man. He won like the greatest landslide probably in New York history. I mean, certainly in recent times. And he used that moment to say that he will fight anti-Semitism in New York and stand shoulder to shoulder with his Jewish brothers and sisters.
So again, I'm going to judge him not on what he says in a speech, but on what he does over time. This morning, and I will tell you, I've gotten so many calls from Jewish New Yorkers who are alarmed. Their kid was harassed in college. Their child was bullied in K through 12. Their synagogues have analyzed. So here's what ADL is doing right now. If you are a Jewish New Yorker, we have your back, and we will hold Mamdani, Mayor-elect Mamdani, accountable. Look, it's not about politics. This morning we launched a tip line at adl.org NYC. So if you are Jewish and you experience anti-Semitism where you work or where you worship or where you live, We want to know so we can track it.
Well, and
look, I tell you,
there has been anti-Semitism in New York that we've talked about time and time again.
Yeah.
This isn't something new because he got elected last night. Will you work with him? Will you sit and talk to him? Will you have him be a part of this process?
He has said publicly that he will not work with the ADL and Jonathan Greenblatt. He said that, not me.
By the way, I wouldn't work with Greenblatt, but I haven't found a single statement of from Zohran about that. But yeah, so they are putting together a tip line. They're calling it the Mamdani Monitor. And you know, the way he so sneakily mentions these alleged crimes or the bullying and conflates that with like Zohran, who's not even in power yet, but even if he were, as if he would have anything to do with this. I don't want to waste everyone's time with the full clip, but like, you know, this is Joe Scarborough is not a Free Palestine guy. He's not very good on this issue or any issue really, but even he gets really frustrated with Greenblatt because he's just being so dishonest and blurring lines, and so he's being so gross, even grosser than usual. But yeah, I mean, this is unbelievable, and it's worth noting that actually let's show a response from Zohran himself when he was asked about the ADL, and then we'll get back to this monitor.
And I have not spoken to Jonathan Greenblatt. I take the issue of anti-Semitism incredibly seriously. And last night in my speech, I spoke about how my city hall will stand steadfast with Jewish New Yorkers in fighting the scourge of anti-Semitism across the city and making that clear in the actions that we deliver on from January 1st. And I look forward to working with Jewish leaders across this city, whether they be elected officials, whether they be rabbis, whether they be community leaders, to deliver on the promise of not just protecting Jewish New Yorkers, but celebrating and cherishing them in this same city. I think that anyone is free to catalog the actions of our administration. I have some.
So this is, I think this is them asking him about the Mamdani Monitor. Okay.
Doubts in Jonathan's ability to do so honestly, given that he previously said I had not visited any synagogues, only to have to correct himself.
So very well done, obviously, Zohran Mamdani. Yes, one of the many lies that Greenblatt told was that he hadn't gone to a single synagogue. That wasn't true. But of course, Cuomo had not gone to a single synagogue up until very recently. Cuomo had not gone to a single mosque up until very recently, which is worth noting. Yeah. But what are your guys' thoughts on this like disgusting fear mongering?
I can start.
Yeah.
It's so steeped in Islamophobia and anti-Palestinian racism to declare that we have suddenly created this tip line and to call it the Mamdani Monitor.
No.
I mean, just like the level of racism is really mind-boggling, and that's it's hard to think of Greenblatt getting worse, and yet he keeps surprising us. It's also just it actually really reflects how little he and the ADL really care about anti-Semitism, because if they did, they would not be saying this and using it in this way. And also, was there a Trump monitor?
Right.
Was there, there's like so many examples of, monitors they could have created. And so it's really harrowing. And I think the fact that Zohran won with, I believe, the majority, or he had the highest polling among Jewish New Yorkers, and Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, really shows just how out of touch Greenblatt and others are. With where New Yorkers in the city are at, and what they're demanding, and what they consider safety, and how to actually keep everybody safe. And that the only way to do that, as Zohran has said time and again, and as we all say in our organizing, is to keep everybody safe, not one group at the expense of another.
Yeah. And I fully agree. And just to add on to that, I mean, first and foremost is exactly where Sumaya started, which is that this is just entirely driven by pure Islamophobia and anti-Palestinian racism. I think it also just continues to expose, like, I just want to be clear, this is not just about Jonathan Greenblatt, this is about the ADL, right? Exactly. And the ADL has been pretending to be a civil rights organization for a very long time. And it has been increasingly exposed over and over again. And this is yet another moment where they are making very clear that they have zero interest in actually protecting the civil rights of people here in this country, and are really acting more as an organization that is trying to basically protect the Israeli government from any level of criticism, and the political ideology of Zionism from any level of criticism. And I think that Jonathan Greenblatt is making this very clear. And, you know, if we compare this moment of Zohran's incredible win that brought together such an incredible coalition of people fighting for New Yorkers with how the ADL responded when Elon Musk gave a Nazi salute on national television. The ADL's response was that they said it was an awkward gesture and that everyone should turn the temperature down.
Yeah. Brad, we have that, right? You want to show that? Yeah. No, I think, you guys tweeted that. I had actually lined that up because the JVP Action tweeted that out. Yeah, so you wrote, JVP Action wrote, protecting all New Yorkers is good for the Jews, actually. The ADL should try spending more time worrying about the Nazis in the White House and less time attacking the mayor-elect who believes in dignity for every New Yorker. And so you contrast, so this is a Greenblatt tweet. As CEO of the ADL, the mayor-elect has campaigned on policies that could create a hostile environment for the Jewish community. He's literally told us that he's going to pursue these policies. We are doubling down now because we believe him. These policies. You know, it's always interesting when you don't have an adjective following these, because it's like you can't actually say what you're talking about. And then it's ADL launches initiative to track and monitor Mamdani administration policies and appointments, protect Jewish New Yorkers. And then let's compare that to the ADL response to when Elon Musk did a Nazi salute. This is a delicate moment. It's a new day, and yet so many are on edge. Our politics are inflamed, and social media only adds to the anxiety. It seems that Elon Musk made an awkward gesture in a moment of enthusiasm, not a Nazi salute. But again, we appreciate that people are on edge. In this moment, all sides should give one another a bit of grace, perhaps even the benefit of the doubt, and take a breath. This is a new beginning. Let's hope for healing and work toward unity in the months and years ahead. It's also worth noting, by the way, that Abe Foxman, who was the ADL before the ADL CEO before Greenblatt, and is no friend of Palestinians and is a total Zionist, even for him, the way that Greenblatt is sucking up to Trump and like conflating, Nazism with pro-Palestine activity worries him. And again, this is not someone with our politics, but it's disgusting. I mean, I'm almost relieved. It seems like it's not really working anymore.
Yeah,
that's my hope.
Yeah. I think that's true. Sorry,
I agree. No, I agree. I don't think it's working anymore, and I think that's part of why Zohran is our mayor-elect.
Yeah. I think people are ready. People are pretty tired of cynicism, of being gaslit, and are tired of politicians and groups that are very obviously and blatantly trying to divide us so that we don't gain working class people power.
Right. Yeah.
And what I would add to that also is just that, anybody can open their social media or the news and watch in real time as Israel bombs Gaza.
Yeah.
Right. And sees the famine that Israel has created in Gaza and just the total destruction. And there is you can talk for hours on right-wing TV channels, and you can't talk yourself out of those images that people are witnessing.
Yeah, it's true. It is, you can't ask people to not believe their lying eyes. And you guys have been so generous with your time, and I know how busy you are, but tell us what's next for DSA, what's next for Jewish Voice for Peace Action, what's next for Zohran, what you're looking forward to him working on, what you're worried about the challenges moving forward are.
I can start. I think that there's a big new challenge ahead of us. There's a lot of hard work that we're going into that is just as important as the campaign, and it's to really push our movement and to continue to organize and use the infrastructure we have from the campaign to ensure that these policies, that the affordability agenda can pass. It will be no easy task. I think a lot of the infrastructure from previous mayors, from the establishment, is going to be to stop Zohran from passing the agenda and to say, well, look, you elected someone that was for working class people, it failed. Now you're not going to try again. Right. So our work really is to help the Zohran administration to continue to be part of this movement that we're all in together. I mean, Zohran ran as Zohran for mayor, but it was the movement. It was his movement that we're all a part of. This is a movement that's going into office. And to continue to build that movement in order to pass the affordability agenda, I think is key. It needs to be the focus of every single organization that was part of the campaign, and that is now jumping on board. And we welcome all who want to jump on board now, because it's going to be a big task.
Yeah, agreed. Now it's the time. Affordability agenda. This is when we get to work, right? The hard part starts now. Unseating a political dynasty, easy peasy. Now let's get to work. I think that, you know, in addition to what Sumaya said, I think that there's going to be a lot of the work to continue all of the ongoing organizing that is not even directly connected to this administration, but is around Palestinian rights organizing in this city, is also what's next, right? The US government is still complicit in this ongoing genocide. We are still continuing to fund these atrocities. And there are still Palestinian rights activists who are being attacked, abducted. There's still a Columbia student who is in ICE detention still. I mean, these things are ongoing. All of that work needs to continue. And I'd be remiss if I didn't also just take a minute to plug right now that there is an ongoing campaign led by JVP Action's sibling organization, Jewish Voice for Peace. Our New York City, the JVP New York City chapter is actually leading a campaign that just launched specifically around a local issue that if you're in New York and you want to dive into something there, which is called, it's a Break the Bonds campaign. And this is about disrupting Israel bonds that cities are investing in. And just as a little background, Brad Lander, our previous comptroller, made the decision to cut New York City's pension investment in Israel bonds. That is the correct decision. Yeah. Now the incoming comptroller, Mark Levine, has said that he wants to reinvest in Israel bonds. He wants to go out of his way to put New Yorkers' hard-earned pensions into Israel bonds, which are, one, a terrible financial investment. That is bad finance. They are not doing well, Israel bonds. And two, morally unforgivable to invest in a country that is committing genocide and apartheid. And so there's a campaign right now geared toward stopping Mark Levine from reinvesting. And so that's something that folks can also check out. That's an immediate next step that will be kind of pushing on at the local level in New York as well.
And which Zohran supports. Zohran was supportive of divesting from Israel bonds.
And had said that he'd support Brad's decision. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And Brad Lander and Zohran co-endorsed, right? Endorsed each other during the mayoral.
That's right.
Yeah. I spoke to him very briefly at the election night party. Well, this is great. We'll definitely put a link in there. And that's another great example of how the local and international intersect. Thank you guys so much for all that you're doing. Definitely come back on. There's so much to talk about. We just scratched the surface. Oh, wait, one last thing I have to show. This is a good send-off, I think, for this segment. There was an Al Jazeera journalist who was doing a report on Cuomo, and this is what happened when he tried to get Cuomo supporters to appear on camera.
Do you live in New York City?
Yeah.
Yeah? Are you following the mayor's race?
Yeah.
And do you have an opinion about who you would support in that?
Why are you asking?
We're doing a documentary, and I'm trying to find, actually, to be frank, Cuomo supporters that will go on camera and say they're supporting Cuomo. You know.
I mean, I'm not going to go on camera, but I'll tell you I do not support Mamdani.
Are you going to vote in the mayor's election?
Yeah.
Who do you support?
Not for Zohran.
Not for Zohran. So you're going to vote Cuomo?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm doing a documentary. Will you say that on camera, that you support Cuomo and why? No. Are you actually voting for Cuomo or against Zohran? It sounds like against Zohran, because that's who you said first. Not for Zohran.
Yeah, not for Zohran.
I support Cuomo.
2 minutes. I could put you on camera.
Yeah.
No? Okay. Thank you.
We love Andrew Cuomo.
Do you?
Yeah.
Would you go on camera and say that?
No.
We're asking people on the street who they're supporting in the election. So far, we've had a number of people tell us that they're supporting Cuomo, but not one has been willing to go on camera.
It's unbelievable. Compare that to like the countless people who will put themselves on camera, like to support Zohran Mamdani. Or like you guys probably know Una Osato. She's an old friend of mine. And, she literally had like her nails done with Zohran, and made a video about that. So, yeah, it's just you kind of can't make it up. And this is what happened when you don't run on anything. I mean, he ran a really bigoted campaign. Cuomo did. He did an interview with some host who actually who said that imagine if Zohran is mayor during the next 9/11. And the host said, yeah, he'll be cheering it on. And Cuomo just laughed it off, you know, like he didn't laugh at the host for saying it. He laughed at him like, yeah, very funny. So yeah, no wonder it's toxic to support him. So yeah. Truly. Well, thank you again so much for coming on. And we look forward to talking to you again. And congratulations for all that you guys did and your organizations did to get this to make this happen.
Thank you so much, Katie.
You too.
Yeah, thanks, Katie.
Bye.
Thanks for having us on.
Have a great night. All right, guys, don't go anywhere. That was a great segment. And give this stream a like if you haven't already given it a thumbs up. Really, it's so encouraging to be able to be excited about something. By the way, after the interview that we're doing with Milton, who's our next guest, I'll be showing some clips from election night where I was lucky enough to be able to go to the election night party. And I speak to people like Morgan Basichis from JVP, Rania Khalek, of course, friend of the show, Rania Khalek, and Adam Green at the Progressive Committee for Change. And they all have really interesting perspectives. So, but before that, I'm going to bring on our next guest. Really excited to welcome back onto the show, Milton Perez. He is from the Bronx and from Puerto Rico. He is a leader in VOCAL, New York's homelessness union. He's an advocate for those experiencing homelessness, the formerly homeless, and the housing insecure. And he is a consultant as someone who has lived experience of spending over 5 years in the shelter system. So welcome back, Milton.
Hey, Katie, good to see you.
Hi, you too. And, you know, I ran into you right as I was leaving the building, the Paramount Theater in Brooklyn, which is where Zohran had his victory party. And it was really cool because there was so much energy and excitement in the room. But then when you went out, there were so many people, like hundreds of people were waiting, I guess, hoping to see him. I don't know if he actually went out of that door, but all these people were driving cars and trucks and honking in excitement.
Yeah, it was interesting seeing, like, I call the different tribes getting together and actually celebrating. He did come out like towards the end, not to the door, like maybe past 1 p.m. because I didn't know it was a party. I thought it was like my first time in that type of environment, but a very
1 a.m., right? 1 a.m.
Yeah, like past 1 a.m. he passed by in his vehicle and waved by, you know, so at least the people got to see him. That you know, the fandom, you know, it's a new group now. People are fans. I've seen Zohran a bunch of times in Albany, and you know, a lot of these politicians. I'm not good with remembering names, but I recognize their faces the last 5 or 6 years. So it was great to see all these people having this success. You know, Zohran maybe like his victory, his personal victory, his team, and then you know the people around them, whether it's the orgs, the larger orgs or the grassroots orgs like Vocal New York, you know, celebrating together.
Yeah. So tell us what Vocal did, what the involvement of Vocal was in Zohran Mamdani's campaign, and what the relationship between Vocal is and Zohran.
So Vocal New York, you know, is an organization of 4 unions. We fight to end homelessness, you know, the drug war, mass incarceration, you know, HIV, AIDS as we know it. So we're more of a grassroots organization. We also have, you know, sister org, which is Vocal Action Fund, which is more political. So many of our members are leaders also in that org. So they were canvassing and doing that sort of thing. But representing the grassroots side of things, whether, you know, it's Vocal New York or Neighbors Together or Community Voices Heard, the smaller orgs, you know, just hitting the pavement and speaking to people, you know, educating people, learning from people. Me, myself, you know, I was not canvassing and doing that sort of thing. But every time I got a chance, I advocated for the mayor-elect. A lot of people, you know, very excited. A lot of people are confused because they see all these commercials that I avoided. So as far as Zohran, he's one of those guys, this new generation of politicians, some of us who are not political, you know, that I've seen the last 5 or so years going to Albany, going to City Hall, even the Capitol in Washington, D.C., seeing, you know, whether it's, you know, Ocasio-Cortez or Mamdani or the various city council members. These people are truly believe in co-governing, you know. They really believe this, you know, that people, you know, people directly impacted people should have a voice, should be centered. So that's the relationship, you know, with Mamdani and this whole new generation of politicians. that are actually, hitting the pavement, fighting for us, which is people have been waiting for years now. I'm sort of like in that side, not political. For the past 10 years, I've seen people be disappointed election after election. And so to see this finally, things coming together, it's a sight for sore eyes.
Yeah. And can you tell us your own story with how you became an advocate for the unhoused, for the housing insecure, your experience in the shelter system, and what you think people need to know about that system?
It's not the fault of the people, it's a systemic problem. So we're trying to, deal with systemic problems. I say I spent over 5 years in the shelters because I stopped counting at 5 years. People didn't believe, people spent so much time, and those people coming into the shelter system, by the time that COVID came around, some people had never experienced, social services or any type of that sort of thing. Where we're shocked, and those people eventually, spent 4 years themselves in the shelter system. So it's a systemic problem. We've been fighting, with our sister organizations or allies here in the city. Not only homelessness, focused organizations like Neighbors Together, Vocal New York, but the Med Council, and those sort of organizations to push for vouchers, which some people may not like, but it's at the moment is the best tool that we have. So some tools need to be sharpened or oiled to work properly. So that's what we've been pushing for the past 5 years or so. At the time in 2020, the voucher was like $1,200 or so. Now it's almost double that, and that change being made helped thousands and thousands of people get out of the shelter or avoid. One thing that when I spoke to Mamdani, one question that I asked that he agreed to is he finally implement the city first bills that were passed a year or so ago in the city council that the present mayor vetoed. We overcame the veto, and then it just became a legal thing, the so-called lawsuits and such. And he agreed to do that. And when those bills are implemented, it would expand the city first voucher to much more people be able to qualify. And one particular group is the people, that the housing insecure, that if your issue is not being able to pay the rent, why put people into the shelter? Why not help them, stay in the place that they're at? So that's one of the people who, coming out of prison, people who've been in prison for years and having to come out and then being placed with some would say another type of prison, which, will be the shelter. So in those ways, that I think, Mamdani, in the new government, that I said, which would have some of the previous, because there's people within the system that we've dealt with throughout the years that, have been helpful, but there's always something that has stopped it. And I think with due leadership, I think we're going to overcome, not only, jump over or walk around certain barriers, or like actually break them down.
Yeah. So you're optimistic.
Yeah, very much so.
And talk more about this voucher program.
So City HAVPS is, it's a city voucher. It's for the 5 boroughs. The past year, there's made some changes where people can actually take it outside the 5 boroughs and upstate and such, Westchester, Albany, and such. But it's a city-based voucher that it's the culmination of maybe 10 years or so. There were different kind of vouchers, and they finally, put it on the city HAVPS, and which has helped thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people to get out of the shelter system. It helps, pay the rent, which is the main issue. The vast majority of people that are homeless, experiencing homelessness, is because of affordability, not being able to pay the rent. And as we know, the rent keeps going up and up. So, that's the main, whether it's a family or a single adult, the ability to pay the rent or needing help to pay the rent and avoid the shelter system that, to the opinion of many, is much more expensive. You're willing to spend $5,000 to $10,000 to house somebody in a shelter, whether it's a single adult or family, when with half of that, you help somebody, stay in an apartment or get into an apartment.
Right. Yeah. And city HAVPS. So it's spelled city FHEPS. And as Milton has been saying, what that is it's a city family homelessness and eviction prevention supplement. So they're vouchers that people can pay towards housing and things like that. And what happened was that under Mayor Adams, he delayed city FALP's expansion. And
Yes.
so the whole, yeah.
So it's in the courts right now, and Mamdani, the mayor-elect, agreed to, implement them when he doesn't.
Talk more about the power that the mayor has in terms of issues of housing and homelessness, and what you're hoping Zohran will do that Adams did not.
The mayor is the #1 manager in New York City, so there's something called the housing first that was actually here in the 90s under Giuliani, of all people. And a lot of ideas, good ideas, are not always, allowed to grow and to work. So housing first, kind of went away somewhat. So we have the opportunity with Mamdani now that, we can go back to a housing first initiative, which actually, it has been taken over other places. The system in Finland, which is very popular, very well regarded, is based on housing first. And the idea came, that they got the idea from New York, from back in the 90s. So he has that power to just change the attitude. This is a personal thing. So me, there's attitudes and a culture that has developed of judgment, blaming, the victim, I would say, will be somebody experiencing homelessness within the system that has to be done away with. So all these policies are great, all these bills, but I think having somebody with Mamdani and the people around them with a much more positive attitude, not just a mental attitude, more compassionate attitude, would make great strides in changing things for a much better place. That even some of these bills, bills come and go. The laws, are important. But if you have bad actors within the system, all these bills and all these laws are not going to work properly. So I think that the change in attitude, professionalism, the competence that we see, it would make great changes in the near future.
Yeah. And what are you excited about in terms of his housing policy?
I mean, the refocus into housing first, into building more housing, actually affordable housing, or you could kind of say that it offends some people. Low income housing for people with low income, should be at the forefront, in my opinion. We have plenty of luxury housing. You were in downtown Brooklyn. The watch party was a couple of blocks from the shelter I was at, and I saw all those buildings, 50, 60 stories high, go up within the last 5 years. So they don't need any help, in my opinion. So we need a refocus into getting housing. And actually, some people might not want to live in those type of in glass buildings, So a refocus on actually building housing that is needed and that people can actually afford.
Yeah. Well, we actually have a video of you from that was posted by Vocal New York. This is back from October 11th, 2023. But I think it's a cool little clip of you making an important point. And at this same rally, we're going to see someone else who spoke. So let's take a listen to what you had to say. Sorry, Brad, I sent you that. And then after that, we can show this after that. Sorry.
I want to see this.
Crisis. We do not have a migrant crisis. New York has always been a city of immigrants. We spend billions of dollars a year on temporary shelters that should have no problem helping. That we should have no problem helping new New Yorkers in the shelter system. The shelter system is overwhelmed because people like me were forced to live in them for years and years. Like I said, I've been over 5 years in the shelter system. We do not have a migrant crisis.
So that's a great line. We do not have a migrant crisis. We have a housing crisis. So can you elaborate on that?
I mean, for people who work, as advocates, organizers throughout the years, who preceded me by years, there's always been immigration, coming and going into the city. So it was nothing new. All these stories that were told was nothing new. It's more extensive in nature. But this is the richest city in the richest country in history, hundreds of billions of dollars, and they were able to, or after all the complaining, house people in hotels, which I think, kind of showed, the capabilities of the people within the system. When they order to do something, that they'll do it, whether it's hotel, it might be a little too expensive, but we could definitely afford it, It's it's not only, about the money, it's the culture of New York, the history of New York, with immigration particularly. So to this natural, I don't know people outside of New York, but yeah, I mean, this is how it is. This is life. I don't understand, people who think in those issues, especially with the amount of resources that we've had.
Well, let's show someone else who's at this same protest that we just showed a clip of you at. Look who else is there. We oppose New York City challenge to right to shelter. We oppose Governor Kathy Hochul's negligence on our housing crisis. Every single New Yorker needs a place to call home. And who that was that saying that? Zohran Mamdani.
Mayor-elect, Mr. Mayor, in a couple of weeks, Yeah, so people have been sharing photos of the Mayor-elect Mamdani and Zohran. And I looked at my phone, and it goes back to 2021. We were on a Zoom together with Selena, the organizer at the time at Vocal. And so he's been around, and there's a group of politicians who've been around, at least for as far as I've been around, were very welcoming, very, competent and, and fighters. So I'm happy for them, or that group, that many were there at the party the other day, for their victory. And I hope, it's just a whole new way, new way of doing things. We need more success. We need more people to step up. There's plenty to do. Even the Democratic Republicans. I guess there's some space for them. I guess maybe in New Jersey, but there's plenty to do, and I hope people step up and continue to volunteer. And make your voices known. I heard 1 million plus people voted for Zohran.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's not just about voting. Contribute in any other way that you think is possible.
Yeah, and we have to make him do the right thing.
Most
Like
definitely.
FDR famously said, go out and make him do it. Or maybe he said it, maybe it's apocryphal. But the point is that the base needs to make sure that we're pressuring him, because if we don't, then the only pressure he'll feel is from the elites, and we can't let that happen.
He's an organizer himself, and and I'm sure there'll be organizers around him. So, but he knows, he knows us. He knows the grassroots people. We hold everybody accountable, respectfully, and it's just he has nowhere to go. Everybody around him is our fighters. So we're here, for him, to support him, and God bless everybody, that took a chance on this. This is a good thing overall.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Milton, and we'd love to have you back on.
Thank you for having me, and shout out. I mean, one thing that I haven't seen, this is, I remember Professor Lawrence Parker, BKA KRS-One, saying many years ago that there'd be a president one day that grew up listening to hip hop music.
Oh yeah.
So it's an actual practitioner. I haven't heard his music, but he's a practitioner, of hip hop music. So shout out, to Kool Herc, the father of hip hop, his sister, Auntie Cindy Campbell. Who would have known, 30, 40, 50 years ago, people, running the streets, who could not get into the clubs, this is actually going to be running things. So shout out to the whole hip hop nation, Zohran Mamdani, so we're here for you.
Great. Well, thank you. Yeah, we should do a show on hip hop and Zohran Mamdani. That would be a great show. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Milton. Have a great night. Bye. Okay, guys, don't go anywhere. That was great. Give this a thumbs up if you haven't already. We're going to now play some clips from election night. Let's play, Brad, let's play the Morgan clip, the Rania clip, and the Adam clip. Just those three. And I see a lot of people are talking about the fact that Zohran there's a photo of him and Alex Soros, who's, I think, the son of George Soros, and he's a Zionist. And yeah, we're going to have to hold people's feet to the fire. I mean, I'm happy that for every photo like that, you have countless photos of Zohran with people like Vocal, Milton's organization. So we're going to have to see what influence these people have. Obviously, mayors have to work with certain people. And it's going to be really interesting to see how what the relationship between him and the police force is like. But I think we should be ready to push him, ready to make demands, but not give up quite yet. Because this is electoralism. The role of elected officials is to be pushed by the people. So it's on us to push them. And I'm not making excuses for people, but we have to make sure that we're pushing him. If not, he won't be forced to do the right thing. Okay, so let's take a look. This first clip is of me and Rania Kalik. And here's where we find out who won.
Stay with me. I've got New York updates. You're from New York.
Who did I vote his to? I don't even know.
Cuomo, this is not going to surprise anyone, including me, and I'm not even from New York, is winning Staten Island.
The Rock. Staten Island is where they voted to secede once. I wish they would secede. Get out of here, Staten Island. Yeah, Staten Island is where, they are.
I couldn't remember.
That's where you'll find, probably the most Cuomo support.
Well, also, we can't forget that people defended Cuomo's sexual assault of women by saying he wasn't sexually assaulting them, he's just an Italian. They're handsy. If I was Italian, I would have found that so offensive.
Well, his brother, Chris, says that Fredo is like the N-word, so.
Well, but it's okay if Cuomo's anti-Italian. Then we've got Cuomo's also winning Southwest Brooklyn, historically more conservative, but the rest of Brooklyn is solidly Mamdani in some areas by huge margins, like 80%. So still waiting. Oh, and then I've got some more updates from managing editor Ben Becker. Once again, shout out, Ben. Thank you so much. Cuomo's winning some of the more middle class and conservative areas of Queens, Forest Hills, Rego Park, sorry guys, Fresh Meadows, but the more working class,
That's terrible to hear, yeah.
but the more working class immigrant centers of Queens like Jackson Heights, Elmhurst, Woodhaven, Richmond Hill are all going for Mamdani. That's actually where we made a video a few days ago talking to early voters at the polls, most of whom were going for Zohran, so that's no surprise. And it looks like, based on what we're seeing on the TV broadcast behind me, Zohran is now at 52 or 51.3%. You hear the cheers. The crowd is thrilled. And you've got Andrew Cuomo at 40%. Curtis Sliwa at 7.7%. That is it with, I'm not sure how many votes are in yet. But I think we're going to have some pretty early concessions tonight based on these numbers.
That's amazing. And once again, I want to give a shout out. I got to give a shout out to Curtis Sliwa for his amazing line. I think maybe this had some impact when he said that Cuomo was killing grannies and slapping fannies. I'm never going to stop.
What did I miss? Sorry.
Oh, I'm just giving Curtis Sliwa once again some credit for his great line where he said that Cuomo was guilty of killing grannies and slapping fannies.
I mean, can you argue with the guy?
Yeah.
Curtis Sliwa, I actually didn't know who he was till this election, but he ran in 2021.
Yeah, he has a lot of cats. He has like 17 cats. He's not someone that we really, his origin story is interesting. He's a little vigilante justice-y, but...
Yeah, he has like some vigilante organization. Yeah. Oh. The projected winner of the New York City mayoral race is Zohran Mamdani. This crowd, I don't even know if you can hear me over it. This crowd is thrilled. They're screaming. AP is calling it for Zohran Mamdani. That's basically official, folks. Zohran Mamdani, 34 years old, Muslim, immigrant. Katie's got goosebumps.
I did not think I was going to have that. I have to say.
Mayor of New York City is a 34-year-old Muslim immigrant, democratic socialist who wants to give the city free childcare, free healthcare, says there's a genocide in Gaza. This is huge. This is more of a national election than a local one. This is a huge shift for the Democratic Party, which I imagine the leadership of this party is panicking They're sitting around tables trying to probably figure out how they can pacify Zohran Mamdani and his base.
I did not think it was going to be this fast, and I did not think I was going to get so emotional.
It's not even an hour after polls close. It is 38 minutes after polls close, and Zohran Mamdani is already being called the winner.
Such an FU to the corporate, like, moribund husk of the Democratic Party. He did this despite the fact that the Dems refused to endorse him, and they of course did that because they're a bunch of cowards who can't ever get behind the moral position, and the moral issue of our time is Gaza. And I know that this is about affordability, but this is amazing. Like, I'm really much more emotional than I thought I would be, because again, this is someone who ran on the idea that Palestinians are human beings and that New Yorkers can get behind this, and I did not think, wow, I mean, this is, yeah, I don't mean to sound...
No, listen, Katie, I totally understand. I live in Lebanon. I am Arab. I see Palestine as part of where I'm from. And, you know, I have my criticisms. I will continue to have my criticisms. As somebody in journalism, I will hold this man accountable. I hope his movement will as well. But it's really, really hard to see, not to look at this and recognize, or at least feel a little bit seen.
Yeah,
as somebody from a region that's constantly being bombed by an ethno-supremacist state that has almost majority support from the leadership of this country, to have somebody so young run on a platform recognizing that this ethno-supremacist state is committing genocide with our money, with weapons that our tax dollars pay for, to have him win when just a few years ago this was an issue. It was unthinkable.
It was political suicide. You could not do this. And I gotta say, sorry to Jew out and everything, but like, this is a Jewish city, and I'm so proud that we can like put to death the idea that Jews do not support people who believe in rights for Palestinians. I mean, again, sorry, I don't mean to be self-indulgent about this, but this is, I mean, I'm proud of New Yorkers also, but wow. I can't get over this. I did not think it would be this quick. I didn't think I'd be that emotional. But it's amazing. And it's not just Israel, obviously, but look, let's be real. For people like you and me who have been taught that we cannot have someone politically viable who's correct on this issue, obviously affordability and socialism is exciting, but I'm sorry. We're socialists, can I say that?
Of course, yes, you can say we're socialists.
But like, I mean, the idea that you can call this a genocide and win the mayoralty of New York effing City is unreal. I'm so happy. And look, we got to hold his feet to the fire, but how exciting is it that we're going to have a mayor like him whose feet we have to hold to the fire? All right. Oops, sorry. So that was me and Rania Kalik. Now let's take a listen to me interviewing Adam Green, who's with the Progressive Change Committee. They're kind of as good as you can get while still working within the Democratic Party. That's how I like to describe them. But here he is talking about what the impact of Zohran's win will be on the Democrats. So, Celine, tell us. No, blue button-down shirt, Brad.
Wondering, will the public actually reward me if I have an inspiring agenda and take on very powerful interests? Tonight, the answer is overwhelmingly yes. It is also going to send shockwaves through corporate America and the corporate wing of the Democratic Party. They wanted to kill this in the cradle. They didn't want this to get out. The genie is out of the bottle, and they're going to see actual progressive governance, actual corporate accountability happening on the biggest platform in the United States of America, and that will have ripple effects throughout our national debate.
So what kind of ripple effects are you talking about?
Well, anybody who follows Chuck Schumer knows that there are some Democrats who don't like to use power, who would rather have a talking point and then lose than doing something and winning. Zohran is actually going to challenge billionaires. And one thing I think that he's going to do, unlike many Democrats who have made mistakes in the past, is he's going to keep the public engaged. You know, Barack Obama got elected and brought the entire healthcare debate behind closed doors, where he cut deals with pharma and just sacrificed his leverage. I am very convinced that Zohran is going to keep his army mobilized, use it as a source of leverage with the council, with the governor, and with the culture of the bureaucracy in New York City to get stuff across the finish line. And when he gets stuff across the finish line, that puts the bar higher for every other elected official, including Democrats in America, makes them accountable to their voters back home. If Zohran can do it, why can't you do it?
So the flip side to that same issue or question is, what do we do to make sure that we hold him accountable? Because we all know that, it's the famous apocryphal or not, go out and make me do it line from FDR, that Obama that he used. Obama, no one made him do anything. So how do we make sure we do make him do those things?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping there won't need to be too much pressure to keep him doing the right thing. But I do anticipate that, especially early on in his administration, there will be moments where he's trying to get along with the governor or the council. And I do think there is a role for independent activism, not waiting for him to say, please pressure X, Y, or Z politician. But we have to get out there in the streets, surround the council offices, right? Go up to Albany, have protests, do things that show that the public is on his side without him necessarily having to lead the rally like he will tonight. I think that's a way of allowing him to be as bold as he wants to be, if that makes any sense. What do you think about that theory of the case?
I like it. I think it's good. I think this is a cool moment where progressives and people from within and outside of the party can work together. Oh my God, I think he's going to concede.
Guys! All right, so that was Adam Green of the Progressive Change Committee. Now we're going to hear from Celine from Slow Movement.
Oh, Celine, tell us who you are, what you're doing here, and also what you do in life, because it's very exciting, important work.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is such a historical night. My name is Celine Seman. I run the Slow Factory, which is an organization that works in preserving our right for the free press, for climate justice, human rights. It's a cross-movement organization that works.
Where are you from, and how is where you're from reacting to this race? Is it paying attention?
I come from Lebanon, and I arrived in New York in 2008, and I've been here since. And what was the second?
How is Lebanon is Lebanon following this race?
The whole world is following this race. I think Zohran Mamdani is an international figure at this point, not only because of his support for Palestine, but he is also someone who is supporting minorities, immigrants. He is, confronting this global rise of the right. He's confronting censorship. He's confronting fascism in such a way that provides a framework, a blueprint for many of us who are on the front lines organizing to see a path forward in politics, in education, and media strategy. So it's really exciting. Yes, Lebanon is for sure watching.
Are you surprised by his victory?
Am I surprised? A lot of people are asking that. I was 100% sure he was going to win because his campaign is a historic campaign in terms of strategy, in terms of design, in terms of the content around it, how approachable he is. And I was 100% sure that he was going to win. That's why I'm here.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay, and now the last person we're going to play a clip with is great Morgan Basichis from Jewish Voice for Peace.
You?
Excited, thrilled, hopeful. Yep, yeah.
So you are very active with Jewish Voice for Peace. What makes Zohran someone that Jewish Voice for Peace got behind with so much enthusiasm?
Yes, Jewish Voice for Peace Action was a day one endorser of Zohran's campaign because we've been in the streets with him. We've been organizing with him for Palestinian freedom and for an end to U.S. military funding to Israel for years. So we know this person and I've organized alongside this person, so it was a no-brainer to say, we want to throw everything behind your campaign. And as we saw, there was horrific racist onslaughts of people weaponizing the accusation of anti-Semitism against him and saying somehow New York Jews don't feel safe with him. This is ludicrous, racist, Islamophobic propaganda. And so we were really proud to be there every single day knocking doors for Zohran.
I mean, the irony is that it's also gonna foment anti-Semitism. The idea that a bunch of Jews hate this guy. You know, I mean, you and I care about this issue because Palestinians are human beings. But the irony is that, like, this is not good for Jews, constantly accusing people of anti-Semitism. Now, I want you to comment on that. Then my other question for you is, were you surprised by how successful he was? Because, not because he doesn't deserve that, but given how much institutionalized racism, Islamophobia there is, and Zionism.
Yes. I mean, what's so clear is this is not a referendum on him, but on this agenda that we all share. This is a referendum on how clearly our city is hungry, urgently hungry for an affordable city that we all can live in, and is urgent and is hungry for moral consistency, for people who will speak out for the freedom of all people, including Palestinians. We have moved past the era of being progressive except for Palestine. It cannot fly anymore. It will not fly. We see it and we call it out. And so it's amazing to see his success, but his success is really about the success of movements and organizing that created this victory.
Right. And the fact that he and you guys can overcome all the institutionalized support for Israel, all the institutionalized racism, it makes the stats and his support all the more. I mean, it's like so inspiring on its own, but knowing that this is despite all the pressure, all the political elites and media elites in lockstep saying someone like Zohran is a threat is just so inspiring.
Yes, and as we were on the doors, as Jewish New Yorkers saying we are so excited to support this candidate, the conversations we had were amazing. And we talked to so many people who resonated so deeply with the need for an affordable city and the need for a mayor who will take principled stances about the rest of the world. And we don't want to be complicit. Our city, we don't want to be complicit. There's a deep feeling of we want to be on the right side of history, and that's what I saw over and over again on the doors.
Now I see you have a shirt that says "Gays for Zohran." Okay, now tell me, was there a lot of pressure? Did you feel some pressure to do a hot gays for Cuomo the way that there were hot girls for Cuomo?
It was very tempting to do hot gays for Cuomo. There's a lot of pressure on us. I think maybe there was no one who kind of fit that bill, so yeah, it didn't work out.
All right. Yeah. Too bad. No hot gays for Cuomo. So that was Morgan, who does a lot of great organizing and also is a great performer and comedian. Well, guys, this has been great. I see some, hateful, homophobic comments in here. I do want to just say that I'll block them. It's never clear whether like to address something, whether to educate people, but someone said that I will address this because I think it's important. So someone said that Israel's really gay and that's why they sodomize their prisoners. That's not actually how it works. Rape is a crime of violence and has nothing to do with your sexual orientation. The people who rape Palestinian hostages can be whatever sexual orientation. And as people know, Israel really weaponizes LGBTQ people and rights, and they pretend that they are a safe haven for the gays, and they somehow actually try to link their killing of Palestinians to their concern with LGBTQ people. I don't know if you've seen this. This is something I've brought up a few times, but it's probably one of the dumbest arguments I've ever seen, which is like, Hamas doesn't like gay people, so genocide is good. I mean, it's really, you can't really thread that needle. It's it's an extremely stupid and dangerous argument. Let me just let's just see some super chats. Duly Noted writes, conflating Zionism with being Jewish, twisting what people already know. The difference is they haven't a leg to stand on, so they keep pushing this false narrative. Yep. Super sticker. Thank you from Piano Man. Shlante, the Irish cheers. Thank you for that. Any comment about Mamdani chumming it up with Alex Soros for a photo op? I addressed that. And then a super sticker from Mombo Jumbo. Thank you so much for that. We'll be back to taping on Tuesday, streaming on Tuesdays. This was because of the election on Tuesday that we moved to Thursday. And I'll be doing a live event. Brad, I have to tell you about it. We can decide whether we'll stream it or not. It's at the People's Forum. I texted you. Can you just throw up the link up there? Do you need me to text it to you again? Thanks. Guys, thanks for bearing with me. I'm sick. So hopefully by next week, I won't be sick again. I'll be better by then.
Yeah, Katie, if you could text that to me again, that'd be great.
Yes. Okay, one second. It's called AIPAC's Worst Nightmare. Hold on. It's going to be cool. You can watch it in person at the People's Forum, or you can watch it online. Sorry, I'm really tired. I look really tired and sick. I could see it from the covering that party. You can see I'm a little pale. Yeah, pink washing. Did I say that? Or the way that they weaponize the way that they weaponize the LGBTQ issues to hide what they're doing to people. Okay, so yeah, AIPAC's Worst Nightmare. It's a summit. Hear from leaders all across the movement from Washington, D.C. and NYC. So I'll be there. And if you scroll down a little bit, what does AIPAC's Worst Nightmare look like? It's every politician returning AIPAC money, every candidate for office refusing it, and an end to blank U.S. checks funding endless wars and occupation abroad. It means stopping illegal weapons transfers, preventing another unauthorized, little typo there, war with Iran, and building a foreign policy rooted in peace, not perpetual conflict. Join leading pro-peace organizers and advocates from Washington, D.C. and New York City, Friday, November 4th at 6 p.m. at the People's Forum as we connect the power of grassroots protest to real policy change in Washington. The movement to end U.S. complicity in war crimes and restore integrity to our foreign policy is surging. AIPAC calls this movement radical. In truth, it's a common sense. Stop the bombs. In truth, it's common sense. Stop the bombs, end the genocide, save lives, and put people before war. It's time for a new American foreign policy that reflects our values and prioritizes peace. And there will be free Iranian food. And it's hosted by NIAC, National Iranian American Council Action, and the People's Forum. And Jamal Abdi is going to be there. He's the executive director of NIAC. Tariq Habash, who resigned from Biden's administration over Gaza. Odelia Mater, who is a program associate at Middle East Policy, and none other than Katie Halper. So yeah, that'll be an interesting event. And we actually had someone from NIAC on the show, Eitan Mabruk, who spoke to us about Iran. And he's actually, I don't know if people remember, he's Jewish, and talked about Iran and his experiences there. Anyway, sorry, I'm really tired. And gotta go to sleep and take some NyQuil. But thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you next week, and we'll get back to our regular programming and Patreon and stuff next week.
And I'll just mention, Katie, to everyone, if you're interested in attending that live event, we put the link for tickets in the YouTube description.
Oh, great. Awesome. Great. Okay. I will see you guys all next week. Thank you, Brad, so much. Thank you, Milton, so much. Thank you, Beth, so much. Thank you, Sumaya, so much. Thank you, Nate, for the research. And thank you to the whole team, Ryan and Andrew, and see you next week.
Okay, I'm down.